Good morning everybody and welcome back to the third episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase, where we are taking a look at 18 custom LEGO sets based off the newly released Tears of the Kingdom. And today we are going to be jumping without any further ado because we have a lot to look at, especially if you looked out at our set from last week, bad pun I know, as this is Z0076, the second part of the two set sort of combination event that we've got going on here with our Lookout Landing set with 689 pieces. This is the Secret Cave Discovery, and it might not look much like much now, however, we're about to see everything that this set has to offer, because it is for ages 8 and up with 1,202 pieces retailing for £109.99. It is another big set with 7 minifigures and 4 brick-built characters that might change a little bit depending on your definition. And if we take a look at our description for today, you get to see a little taste of what I'm going to show you. Delve into the caves of Hyrule with the new LEGO Legend of Zelda playset. Explore enemy-filled caverns collecting bright booms and bright caps, as well as the hoarded treasure behind the fearsome like. Secret map leaves you deeper into hidden passages after a legendary armor set, but take a break from your quest in the emergency shelter for food, allies and weapons. If you wish, use Ascend to rise up to the surface anytime and connect to Z0075 Lookout Landing for interconnected player expansion, which you will see today, not here on the box of course. Which, speaking of that box, it has the same normal design that we've been seeing across all of our Tears of the Kingdom sets and shows the full caves off in all its glory. You can see the emergency shelter in the middle, but right now let's open the box and see what we get inside. It is 12 numbered bags and 1 large instruction manual, which if we open on up, we will see that bag 1 gives us our Zonai Shorts Link minifigure as well as a Bloopy and starts the Technic frame for the base of our set today. Bag 2 continues that frame. Bag 3 gives us our first Horriblin minifigure and finishes the base. Bag 4 builds the emergency shelter walls. Bag 5 gives us our Jaren minifigure, starts the decoration too. Bag 6 finishes that decoration, giving us a fully kitted out emergency shelter. Bag 7 gives us our Kosi figure from the emergency shelter, well, he's a character down there, and finishes off all of the walls there. And bag 8, while it doesn't look like much has happened, builds the section round the back. Bag 9 gives us Farah, the Well Lady, and builds the section on the right with the like. Bag 10 does the section on the left, which has some other play features. Bag 11 gives us a second Horriblin and builds the front right cover-up section. If this seems like a weird choice, don't worry, you'll find out why. And then bag 12 finishes off the front section and completes the cave aesthetic that we've got going all the way around the emergency shelter. And we're going to jump in and show you all the details and builds. We've got lots of new fruits and mushrooms represented in this set, as well as obviously a full interior and play features all around it. As we've mentioned multiple times already, this set is designed to connect with Lookout Landing, and that sort of explains its weird shape. Lookout Landing had 2 front platforms on the right and the left that could open up, and the Secret Cave Discovery mimics it. Hopefully you've started to get the idea, but we can indeed put Lookout Landing on top of Secret Cave Discovery for one awesome playset, and we'll be taking a look at that later on in the video. Seeing top down gives you a better idea of the different sort of sections that we've got here. We've got the emergency shelter hidden behind the cave sections at the front, which are the bits that spin out of the way and open up to reveal it. You've got the like room on the right, a secret room on the left, as well as part of the Royal Hidden Passage on the back, as well as a little bit more of a lush cave environment, more reminiscent of the well under Lookout Landing. We'll be taking a look at all of these sections going around, but first, of course, let's give you a 360 spin. Gives you a better look at the like room, the 3 sections on the back, and then the sections on the left. Before, of course, we tackle the first play feature for today, which is, of course, how do you get inside the shelter? Well, we've got to open it up, and that involves just swinging out the section on the left, and then followed by the section on the right to give you full access to all of the lovely interior details that we'll take a look at later. This sort of creates a larger footprint and allows you to have some more play options. This is all, of course, aided by 2 special pieces, and that is this hinge here, which not only allows you to swing the front 2 sections out, but allows you to bring them all the way back to over 180 degrees of articulation, just like Lookout Landing sitting above it. Now, one thing here that works a little bit better than what we looked at with Lookout Landing is you can actually detach these front 2 sections and sort of put them on the side in a way to make a different kind of cave layout. You can see here that this section is the front right section and is sat nicely next to the like cave and looks pretty good actually. It just sort of allows you to have a more linear cave display if, for example, your shelves didn't have as much space or you wanted permanent access to the emergency shelter. The same can be said for the left, and while it doesn't quite line up here because of a mechanism, it still looks pretty good and I'm pleased with how it came out. But enough of those overviews, let's meet our first minifigures for today, and this is Link in the Zonai shorts. Now you may have seen another outfit of Link during the set, and that is the legendary armor set that we are going to be searching for today throughout the caves. But let's take a look at the base version of Link here. He's using the same hairpiece that appeared in the archaic tunic and we'll be seeing a lot throughout the Tears of the Kingdom sets. He has a bare torso with his arm detailing based off Raru's arm, a smiling facial expression which has a scared expression on the other side, we've seen his face plenty of times before, and some dual molded legs with the shorts print as mentioned before. Here you can see based off the reference imagery in game, this is supposed to be without any equipment on, so hence why there are no straps and buckles and so on going across his body. This works perfectly fine in my opinion. Once again, the hair colour debate rages on. There is no perfect colour for the sort of golden blonde. Ideally there'd be a new colour, or LEGO would just use dark tan or medium nougat. The choices are up to you. His hair truly does sit between all of them. Next up though, we're going to go back to our build and take a look at this front section, which you can see here from a top-down perspective has lots of bright colour to it, something that is really useful in a predominantly grey set. Throughout this front section there are two sort of enemy encampments. These are largely designed after the Horriblin bases or platforms you'd see across the caves of Hyrule, and they are scattered with all kinds of different things. In fact, down in the middle section here you can see some of those things. On the floor we have patches of mosses represented using plate pieces, but we also have some sort of ferns or dangly antennas that are common cave life, represented by the stem piece in dark orange in dark green leaves. We also have bright cap mushrooms here using purple BB9E heads on white flower pieces, as well as another build here which we saw last week for bright blooms. We've got two variations. We have small bright bloom seeds using the Baraki eye stuck in a leaf place, the smaller piece, in spring yellowish green to represent it as it's closed, and white to represent it once it's been broken open and illuminated. And then the giant bright blooms using the egg pieces. Once again you'll see this in spring yellowish green for closed bright bloom seeds, and then in white for open bright bloom seeds. You've also got a boulder on the floor, but we'll come back to that later. As you can imagine though, this has got plenty of room for your Link to fight the Horriblins or for the Horriblins to march around. And don't worry, they can indeed do their ceiling walking. We'll come back to that later. Let's take a look at that Horriblin right now though, as this guy uses a brand new mold for his headpiece. Similar to the other major Breath of the Wild sort of enemies, this is a head mold that can not only be used for, well, enemies, but also can one day be recolored to be the Horriblin mask that Link wears. But this figure has more of an interest than just a molded head. This headpiece has a stud hole attachment in the head to allow for the brick-built horn, not using our Tears of the Kingdom horn pack today. This one is just built out of a bar piece, a BB9E head, and a slope to represent the horn as best as I could. The molded head then feeds into a normal minifigure torso and normal minifigure legs with some printing. However, the arms on this torso are actually using the longer arms, the woody arms, to represent their enlarged forelimbs to make them more creature-like and sort of look like a minifigure version of what is essentially a mammal that's climbing on four legs. It's like, how do you make a monkey-like creature using LEGO minifigure parts? Well, turns out the avatar limbs are going to be really, really useful. Next, though, let's go to his little sort of home, I guess, where not only do we have another giant bright bloom seed this side lit, but we also have a weapon that he may have dropped, a spear, and inside the chest we will reveal our first piece of the legendary armor that we are searching for. This is the Froggy hat, Froggy headpiece, part of the Froggy set that allows Link to climb on wet surfaces. Now, I know all you Tears of the Kingdom fans are screaming at me down in the comments because this set does not appear in a cave system in the game. However, this set is sensible to include in a cave-based set where there are lots of water and dripping ceilings, and also it's the only place I can include this outfit across the custom set showcase, so it made sense to sort of change the origin a little bit and put this set in here. Down on the floor you'll see again more moss, more space, and the fact that all of these pillars are raised up on the rockwork on wooden stilts. However, you may notice something sticking out of this rock piece, and we'll take a look at that in just a second, but now's also a good chance to mention the blue pea that's included in this set is just a sort of new mold, very similar to the LEGO Dimensions piece, which can be placed anywhere around the caves to represent, well, the blue pea that would lead you into this cave system. No bubble frog included today, it is planned for a future set though. And taking one closer look up, as I mentioned, this is based off the Dalmatian piece. It will sit on one stud, has a dog-like body, and then the owl-like face, making this another new custom mold for the Tears of the Kingdom wave. Moving inside this rock pillar, as promised, you'll see that it opens up to reveal a skeleton. This is very reminiscent of a feature in the 2013 Rancor pit set from LEGO Star Wars. Let me know if you think you know whose skeleton this is. Let me give you a hint. It doesn't appear in Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild for that matter, but it is a famous face for the Zelda series. I wonder what he's doing dead in this cave though. Next up, we're going to move slightly left to this left portion of the cave, and you'll see here that there are a couple of details to look at. Two, to be in fact. We're going to start by removing the weird Technic beam out of the wall to get a closer look up at the big ugly rock piece which makes up this majority of this piece. You can see a boulder in the wall as well as a couple of minifigure sort of bar elements which are stuck out of walls of various places around this model. And this is for the Horriblins, so that they can sort of climb along the walls or pose or sort of flick things or just sort of more look like Horriblins climbing all over the cave. Got a better image of you to show you that for later. But this one here is positioned specifically so that he can interact with this feature. Horriblins are commonly seen throughout the caves of Hyrule throwing boulders that they pull out of the ceiling at Link. So with a tap of this lever that is positioned behind the model here, you can send our rocks flying as if a Horriblin has pushed them out of the wall directly at Link, who's running away nice and scared here, showing off the alternative face here. And there is plenty of room behind here to store some boulders. This has been deliberately left emptied. You may say this is a waste of space, but this specifically ties into a feature from Lookout Landing that we'll talk more about later. Next up though, there was also this Technic frame which you can see in use here. This is actually supposed to be a rocky pillar, however the blue around it is supposed to represent Link's ascendability, allowing him to return to the surface at any time by sliding this Technic construction up or down, and as you can see he'd go right up to the top. I wonder if that has anything to do with the set that would sit above this. But currently, Link would just reside to the surface. Back over on the front, you may have noticed there was another boulder just loitering over here, and that is to do with another small play feature. You'll find plenty of sticks across the emergency shelter, and with a couple of included studs, you can recreate the fusibility and to make a giant boulder hammer. This could be used in order to mine certain things, fight enemies like the Horriblins, open up the cave with a skeleton in, or there's one more feature that you'll see around the back later to do with a mining feature. Moving further right though, you'll see another Horriblin platform. This one is double leveled, allowing you to put, well, more Horriblins around it. Has some bones on the top, as well as a representation of meat, raw meat from the game, using the old steak piece here, potentially not the most accurate here. Around, of course, you can see those details more clearly, more moss, more bright blooms, and then more place to store your enemies and for Link to fight them. On the wall though, you can see that there is space to go through this little archway into an adjoining cave room where the like is found. This is sort of a good representation of the winding passages which are common in Hyrule's caves. Not only this though, there is another bar attachment on the wall, meaning you could place your Horriblin on the side here, blocking the entrance and stopping Link from passing through. There are plenty of more throughout the major cave, so they can scuttle all over these walls, sit on their platforms, or even on the ceiling. More on that later. Moving into the Light room, let's finally get out of that front section. You can see that he is the major feature for this area. Once again, there are some more cave detailings all around the floor, but the major focus here is our Light friend. He is built in 3 sections with ball joints adjoining them, allowing him to wiggle all over the place, as we will see. He has a black mouth at the centre, as well as plenty of claws to grab onto Link, and of course a Link minifigure could be held by these claws within them nicely and firmly. As mentioned though, the Light can pose. He can raise up and sort of angle down in order to attack Link from above, or you can do it like he's being weak point smashed and therefore be on the floor ready to be walloped until his death. Once he does die, that leaves the cave open for exploration, and what's this? The Light seemingly dropped another chest, which inside we'll find the second piece of our legendary armor set, the Froggy Trousers, using some flippers here for detail, but we'll take a look at that when we have the full set. Behind that cave though is a completely inaccessible cave by the main cave system. You cannot access this through any of the builds or previous other rooms we've seen. However, there is another way to access it, and this is the representation of the Lookout Landing well. You can sort of tell because of the more lush sort of environment around it, as well as the stream that comes through, more plants, more leaves, brighter colours, and a bit of that medium nougat coming through, which represents more of the clayey colours that you see here in the wells of Hyrule, and well, closer to the ground cave systems. It sort of depends on the area. You also notice there is a table on a book because our well has a little bit of an inhabitant down here, and that is of course Farah, who is the tracker of wells in Hyrule and who gives you the Ooze Well. Where Are the Wells side quest in Tears of the Kingdom, a major side quest in the game, and another traveller NPC inclusion for us to take a look at. Here, sporting some simple arm detail, a nice simple torso print, as well as some printing all over the legs. This is a recolor of the Afro element in purple, and just a generic face print. She's carrying a sort of page for a book to write down, well, where are the wells, and then a pen in order to write in that book. Another nice figure, another civilian from Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are always appreciated. When we get to the end of the Tears of the Kingdom wave, I think I'll have to show you how many civilians we now have. There'll be more to come. For now though, let's leave the back for last and let's take a look inside the emergency shelter. This is situated directly where you'd expect it to be, inside Lookout Landing, and features a load of the iconic details from what you'd see inside the shelter. But let's take a look up close and personal at all of the things you might see inside. Starting over on the far left, we have the sort of battle planning station. This is where the Medals of Honor side quests take place and where you can find out about all the 6 mini bosses across Hyrule. Not only is the map print on the wall, but it is also on the table, and furthermore there are 2 micro statuettes to sort of represent the Hyrule Monster controls teams that are moving around, and you could have sort of a general meeting between Scorpus from Lookout Landing and any of the other characters who are sort of planning the fight back for Hyrule. There's also a table with a candle, and that moves us into our next section, which is the Zonai Survey Team research area. We've got a big bookshelf full of different books pulled out at different heights, some crates which I assume would hold artifacts or files, 2 flags on the walls using stickers to show the Zonai Team logo, and then on the table in front of us we have a couple more details, such as the newspaper showing Link and Zelda missing, a diagram suggesting how they might make more effective weapons now that the gloom has decayed them all, such as, well, sort of like the Hylian sort of townsperson equivalent of Fuse, and then on 2x2 is a sketch of a monster never seen before, the monster in the depths, the Frox, sort of hinting that the troops are sort of worried about what there might be, or might be looking out for it. Further around the back there are some more barrels, including some more makeshift weapons, such as a pickaxe for mining, as well as another rock hammer. This one isn't being fused by Link, this is just one that's lying around. There are 2 candelabras on the wall, as well as a goddess statue in the front, as is seen in the emergency shelter. And over on the other side, you get a better look at that goddess statue, as well as a mop for cleaning up the emergency shelter, and then a hammer for the blacksmith, which is the area on the right. But first let's tell you the little build that is the goddess statue. Almost all unprinted parts with a very simplified face on the torso. It's difficult to sort of gauge how I wanted this figure to look, given that noses don't appear on LEGO minifigures, and the hairpiece sort of stops the appearance of wings. However, the hairpiece gives a really nice shaping to the statue, so it sort of swings and roundabouts here. The torso is very simple as well, with just some cracked detailing, could even be a reuse from other statue minifigures that have appeared. However, she's not the only statue we'll be seeing today. Over in the blacksmith you have an anvil for work to be completed, a water dowser for weapons to be, well, doused in, and then over on this rack we have a variety of different tools, both gloomed and ungloomed weapons. You can see a long black horn here representing some attachment to be added to a weapon, an axe which has been made, a bow, a small dagger, a sword blade that has been gloomed, and then a normal broadsword. Over in the next barrel there is of course a broom in order to sweep up any messes. And here is when we find our next minifigure. This is Kosi, who is seen on the floor of Lookout Landing's emergency shelter, sort of attempting to ungloom weapons or prepare them. He offers you some free stuff, and that's about his only purpose. But he is another Hyrule soldier. He's wearing shoulder's greaves and then a simple top, has a handlebar mustache and a nice hairpiece in dark tan. He's holding a screwdriver as he's trying to tinker on various weapons, and he's another addition to our Hyrule Defense Force. Next up though, we have the last area in the emergency shelter, and that is the cooking station. You can see 2 cooking pots on a simple setup in order for you to cook the various materials you found in the cave or to prepare for your cave expedition. And on the wall is another recipe tile, like including these in any set I can, and this one is for Hyrule Tomato Pizza, which is one of the best new edition recipes in the game. Behind the goddess statue though, you may have noticed a hole in the wall, and that is accurate to the Royal Hidden Passage, which is hidden behind the emergency shelter, and this is linked with a side quest to do with our next minifigure, and that is Jerin, who hears a mysterious voice behind the wall and of course opens up the passageway in order for you to see further into Hyrule Castle. Let's take a look at Jerin though before we go through our hole in the wall, and you can see here she is holding a broom, as she is seen in game. She is reusing the Liane hairpiece from Friends. It's the closest existing piece. No, I'm not making a new one. Her hair colour falls in the same camp as Link. I've chosen dark tan here. This is a generic female face print, some short sleeves and dual moulding, some basic leg printing, and then the Sheikah robes on her torso. But we have to go through that passageway into the room at the back, the last room of the caves we have not seen yet, where there are a couple of different things to take a look at. It's very simple detailing in here. It's mostly for a big play feature, where we not only have a spiderweb on the wall, but in the far corner have our horn statue, as would be seen in game, making use of a nice bit of space. Horn statue again follows a very similar design principle to the goddess statue. The horns are unfortunately printed on the face in order, well, you're not getting a new mold for this, it's just unrealistic. Once again, the hairpiece sort of stops there being wings, which is unfortunate. Maybe this one's a little less rounded. I probably could have got away with doing a bold head and then adding a wing piece. And then it was once again a torso with some simple printing representing sort of the large hair braids that come down in front of the statue. And then the main object of this room is of course the giant rock pile, supposed to represent the rocks that you can smash with a boulder hammer that we saw earlier in the set, or with certain abilities in the game, or bombs, or whatever. You can see here of course there is a sort of actuator on the floor, which when pressed down will sort of explode all the rocks, revealing a golden chest inside. And inside that chest you will find the Froggy armor. So let's take a look at the full set on Link, the main figure in this set. We have Link in his Froggy armor. You can see here we're using a recolor of the flippers in dark orange to create the webbed toes. Some beautiful printing on the legs, one of my favorite torso and legs I've done in a while. The main sort of torso outfit, which is fairly sparse actually on detail, and of course Link's arm in the Zonai sort of colours is still present. He has the same face obviously as the set. You would change the head over from the previous figure. You don't get two complete heads, and then you'd replace the hair with the hat, which is actually a recolor of the Imperial Hoth or Imperial General from Star Wars in dark blue with some printing. Printing is not new on this part, it has been done before for a General Veers figure, so it's perfectly fine here. And here you can see it next to its reference imagery. It's pretty accurate, I'm really pleased with it actually. The colours come out really well for the limited LEGO palette. And then of course there is also no secret stone in this set. I know second set in a row that we haven't seen a secret stone, and we won't be seeing one for a little bit longer yet, so we collect them all is still on a halt, but we have plenty more to take a look at because of course these two sets do combine together. Let's just start it off straight away. Here you can see a Lookout Landing resting on top of Secret Cave Discovery. What an incredible concept. It's not unique though, as you'll see in a second. Here's a quick close-up though of the various different angles. From the front you can see that this front cave section lines up with the two opening sections. That's really important as it allows us to open it up. The like underneath the eastern gate, the well and back sections are all underneath each other as well, and then the left section is underneath the west gate. Most importantly, I mentioned the empty gap where the spare boulders are stored, and that is for the air pump for the Lookout Landing tower. Obviously when you just have Lookout Landing on its own, you can launch Link into the sky using, well, the air pump that was included in that set. However, now we have Secret Cave Discovery, the air pump can actually attach in this cave section, and then the tube can actually go straight up through the floor, leaving there to be just less faff, no problems. The tube is just much easier to manage, and now doesn't look so awkward just floating in Hyrule Field behind Lookout Landing. As mentioned though, this set does open up. You can see here half open, and then fully open. The full interiors are visible, and the emergency shelter rests right below the sacred grounds in the center of the model. Here you can see it fully open. It's incredibly impressive. I can't underestimate how I've literally never seen anything like this done before in a custom set, especially not for Zelda. The concept itself is not entirely new. This was done in 2012 and 2013 with the Jabba's Palace sat on top of the Rancor Pit set. However, these were done at a much cheaper price point, making my version significantly unrealistic. Debate it down below in the comments all you like. I think it was worth showing it to you though. As you can see here, the emergency shelter does sit directly below the sacred grounds, and that using the pull-out feature mentioned in Lookout Landing's video, you can actually drop down directly where you would into the emergency shelter. The ladder is just not present in order to make the set flow better and for there to be one less obstacle in the way. But you can see that it does go down perfectly. There are a couple of other features in the cave that we looked at today though that also involved the ceiling, and that is largely the ascend pump. You can see here putting Link on this pillar and ascending upwards will crash him into the bottom of Lookout Landing? No, that's not right. I've planned for this. There's a trapdoor inside the west gate of Lookout Landing which will spring open, allowing Link to ascend straight through to the surface. This feature's so cool. I love it. It works. It's just neat, right? It's just so cool to see stuff like that come together. And then underneath the well of Lookout Landing as well, we mentioned there was another hole in the ground, our third hole in Lookout Landing, but this one of course drops you down into the well, the only area of the cave section that you cannot reach through, well, just interconnected routes. Normally here is the well. You drop down through that, and then of course you could ascend back through the top, but there's no feature. You can just about see the water coming through, and it does specifically drop into that room. I made sure that everything lined it up. There is of course one last thing to take a look at, and that is the fact that if you move a couple of those minifigure bar elements around onto the ceiling that now exists because Lookout Landing is above the model, you can actually make Horriblins crawl on the ceiling. And doesn't that just look fantastic? I love seeing them in their accurate poses. This is why I decided to make a cave set that was the same as Lookout Landing. I really thought it would be cool to combine the two together, considering how intertwined they are with the row hidden passage and having the emergency shelter as well. That is just so neat to me. I don't think any other set will ever be able to achieve that in my showcase. Maybe I'll be wrong, there is one set that has the potential for it. And then lastly, we have the Froggy armor positioned here outside Mub's store. Mub's store sells plenty of armors, and throughout the showcase we'll be adding some new ones to her collection for her to sell. Here you can see the recovered Froggy armor from there with a clear trans black minifigure head in order to put it on sale. Another piece that just happens to be included in Secret Cave Discovery to make your experience with Lookout Landing so much better. As mentioned though, we have some figures to combine too. These are the setup for the the Secret Cave Discovery set. We have Pharah, Jaren, Kosi, Link with the Froggy armor or with the Zonai shorts, the Bloopy, the 2 statues, and then 2 Horriblins. However, we have some figures from Lookout Landing that need to come down to the shelter, such as Wordsworth and Taro from Lookout Landing, that are coming down into Secret Cave Discovery to work at the Zonai team sort of headquarters in Lookout Landing, which is in the base. And Kosi is going to join Scorpus on the surface to join part of the wall patrols. And slowly we're going to fill this out with more travelers or more soldiers, hopefully, throughout the rest of the Tears of the Kingdom custom sets. When you buy both, you get a lot more figures. Look at this lineup. We have 4 Sheikah researchers, 2 Zonai survey team members, a Bloopy, 2 variants of Link, or technically 3, Pen, Mub, Scorpus, Carson, Kosi, and Pharah, adding tremendously to our Breath of the Wild civilian lineup, as mentioned. Don't they look great together? Now that is a proper figure lineup for a set of this size. And not to mention, we'll be outdone, we have the enemies too. We have the Boss Bokoblins troop from Lookout Landing, and then the 2 Horriblins from Secret Cave Discovery. I promise you, this monster lineup by the end of these 18 sets is going to look insane. Just to leave you on that last image of the set together, this truly was an undertaking. It's an absolutely massive project to make sure that it worked or had some semblance of realism. The thought that went into it way outdoes the realism, as unfortunately this is the most unrealistic combination of sets. They're both too overpriced, have confused audiences, and don't particularly line up with my values here in the custom set showcase. However, rather than cancelling them or redoing them, I wanted to see this vision through to the end and show you guys the first ever LEGO Zelda combiner set in this capacity. I do really love it. It's such a shame it's so unrealistic, but there's always future time to come back to it and sort of explore it more. So leave your thoughts down below in the comments regarding that. Not to mention, this set has its own standalone value. There was always going to be a cave set in the wave. What shape it took was undetermined until I decided to pair it with Lookout Landing. However, it's pretty much been paired with Lookout Landing as long as Lookout Landing has been that size. So I've included most of the features I want to do here. There are some noticeably absent things from caves that we'll see across other sets. I'm sure you can leave those down below in the comments below. But as for the next custom set, it'll be in a couple of weeks. We're going to do some other stuff here on the channel first, just for 1 or 2. And this will be Z077. We're going in numerical order at the moment. That's going to change soon. And this one was codenamed Device. Most of you know what this one is. This is the most important thing that we get from LEGO Tears of the Kingdom, and once again contains no secret stone and no banner. We yet to see a banner yet, but this set has a lot of cool potentials. I'm hard at work showing them all off to you at the moment. So please bear with me. I'm sure we will revisit the castle or something in the meantime, as well as show you one of my old LEGO mocks. But we're sure to tune back in for Device in a couple of weeks. Let me know your thoughts down below, and let me know what you thought of Secret Cave Discovery, the figures, and most importantly, the combination of the 2 sets. A landmark moment for this series. And there are still 15 custom sets for Tears of the Kingdom left to show you. That sounds a little low already. I can't believe we're going through them this fast. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.